Okay, so this video is very important. Listen very carefully. Success and succession are related. Generations of the top martial artists have come from Igbo, and I've explored the wordplay, proven that the Nigerians from West Africa were most associated with Osiris, and Ethiopians and other races since have mixed with other races and do not embody the great warrior pharaohs and the warriors who the Europeans in their books, Egyptian mythology, Veronica Ions, and many more sites admit were the first worshippers of Haru. Success and succession. Remember that. As the top martial artists from generations of superior people, mind, body, soul, and spirit, the four sides of the pyramid, I claim my right to determine the direction of humanity and my right to punish them in the spiritual realm when they refuse. Now man has chosen cowardice and rape, and they will certainly refuse because they do not have the moral will and the depth of character, and they will prove my point. The war on terror is really a Greek and private society cult-themed war on African martial arts. Think about how ISIS dresses. Think about the warrior spirit they take on. Think about what they're called. The sand ones versus the jungle ones. Jungle bunny. Think about Easter. And in mythology there are many stories of serpents eating the eggs of the young. Success and succession are connected. My birthright was cheated from me in the same way that many house niggas and other races have cheated my race. I honestly believe that whites, Jews, and Asians are plotting together and using the war on terror to attack African martial arts perspectives because we have a superior vessel, and the opposition view, whatever race they may be, many of them are black, most of them aren't, are empty vessels, so to speak. Hor means face, and Horus means face us. These are the cowards who could not face us, especially because we were full of righteous indignation. When the Osirian cult spread, the Set's temple also spread to usurp them, and they spread to the northern Egypt and beyond. The Asiatics invaded from the north and were repelled. The Hyksos was, eventually kicked out, and then there was Asian campaigns that filled the coffers of Amun-Ra. The Mediterranean whites, white people in general, the sea people, and other peoples lost definitive victories, and I am 100% sure they are using lying scientists and academics to leverage their control over science departments against my view and people like me, and there aren't many of us left. Okay? So they will certainly hide from my December 20 date because the opposition view is nothing but cowards afraid to die for God, or extremists who lack my martial arts insight and transcendence. Certainly because of my village and tribe standing up for black people during the slave trade, refusing the bidding of the oracle. We, on record, we were attacked, and even their European priests have recorded it. So my family has earned the right to claim this martial arts claim, and even those who died fighting for honor in the Americas cannot claim the royal lineage that I have, and everyone should fall in line to me and not put me at the bottom of the social order for telling the truth. America has disgraced itself beyond redemption, in my opinion, but that is up for God to decide. The mythology, of course, I forgive them because that is my role, but I forgive them for offending me, and I have trouble and perhaps should not forgive them for offending God. And during the course of my targeting, there has been irrefutable evidence that God is working through me and revealing things to me through the Bible in a way that they couldn't possibly trick me into believing. The mythology presented by the West are full of rape and feminist twists of stories. No woman should be revered, and little to no respect should be assigned to women. So all these deities in the mythologies are women of respect, and there are no women of respect anymore. There are just cowardly whores who are afraid to date men like me and to reproduce the righteous bloodlines. They choose money and materialism and false European narratives, and everyone sees their motivations. Even in Beni Hassan, the Ben stone, the phoenix, the triangle on top of the obelisk. And obviously black people have the biggest penises, generally speaking. And this is lost when we mix with other races. And we were willing to lose that and mix with other races so that they could feel more accepted and find God. They chose usurping us and stabbing us in the back. And I have a hard time forgiving them for the offense to ancestors and the Spirit of God. Okay, so the mythology presented by the West are full of rape and feminist twists of stories. So you have the story of Medusa, where they pretend that women are not to blame, and they miss the fact that she was supposed to guard the temple and not let the bird in. Neptune was a rapist, Odin was a rapist, Jeb, I believe, was a rapist, and these things are used to justify usurping righteous men and coercing women with money and technology and drugs and this sick culture we have in the West to get them to do the bidding of people who are basically rapists. Just because it's not forcible rape doesn't mean it's not rape. And setting the stage for mass rape and usurping righteous martial artists because you see your races as inferior is no excuse. You should be deeply ashamed of yourself, and I suggest you give up your ill-gotten gains and turn to God. If Jesus told a rich man who did everything right to give up his money and turn to God, imagine the races and nations and ethnic groups and families who have ill-gotten gains. They need to give them up. And if their people benefit from them, their people need to go out of their way to acknowledge my martial arts supremacy and the Igbo's roles and the righteous black African roles in Egyptian history, which they will use their science to pretend doesn't exist. They will continue to destroy the noses of even the Sphinx, which did not fall over. They will just continue to wipe out hieroglyphics that show that transferable skills are superior to wrestling and present the story in a way that allows non-blacks to present themselves as superior, and this causes me to resent them. No woman should, okay, I went over that. Jungle bunnies, Easter, and the fertility goats derived from Egypt are connected. Think about how Uncle Sam is presented as a star between his horns, and if I have time, I'll get into that. That is connected to their usurping the light temple in their minds and in the flesh, and them paying for it with their descendants because they led them astray. And, you know, we breed with the righteous Spirit of God first and foremost in order to create superior forms of life, mind, body, and soul. Read the Bible. The Spirit is more important than the flesh. So to focus on physical traits, even to try to avoid disease, is immoral and evil, because you should focus on the Spirit, and giving people diseases to make their arguments and to turn shallow women away from them is even more despicable, and I can go on and on. Gays have been permanently banned from heaven because of their actions. God has revealed this to me in twisting mythology, not just in the Bible, in other ways. And great repentance is required for them, and they need to completely reject and speak out against homosexuality. Philosophy, mathematics, and astronomy in the cult world are based on magic and divination. That's part of in the book as well. Their book, you know, some white lady, I believe, wrote Egyptian mythology, Veronica Ions or Loans, and that's their own perception. So they are guilty. They testify against themselves, and the book testifies against themselves. I'm kind of running out of time, so I'm going to shoot through this. In their all too common or called form, I despise Western interventions in the mysteries and demand in the name of God that they stop. It needs to be told by black people, you have abused your right. You need to give up the social order to black people in the spiritual aspect of it, the spiritual aspect of it. Being a non-martial artist type sissy bitch is bad enough on top of what they're doing. Ra was also called Fra, and I was right that he is a martial artist deity beyond any doubt. So when I said Pharaoh for Ra, I was right. And many times before I read their interpretations and before I figure it out in other ways, I am already right because my martial art perception is superior. And that's why, you know, the spirit is greater than people who think they know better based on how much they've read and so on. Black Igbos are the greatest embodiment of people, and I made those cult people hide like their pitiful ancestors, with all due respect. Ben Stone, Phoenix, and God desires the black African version and despises their version. Okay, so I'm running out of time. Page 11, 6th paragraph. Home of peoples inspired their communities, gods. Okay, ancient gods from other parts of Africa, of Asia, or of the Mediterranean, which were the original homes of the people. In ancient Egypt, might was right. Victory proved moral superiority. So before I even read this, again, and remembered it as such, my sacred morality argument reigns supreme as well. And Horace argues that succession and justice should prove it. And so you think about Horace with the triangle-headed spear, when he was a hawk-headed man, surgical strikes. My dad's a brain surgeon, son of 2 doctors. I have the world record for speed. Certainly they will use drugs and technology to downplay it, as they have slowed down my videos, and they will use drug and technology to attempt to break it in the future, and they probably will, because they'll make some kind of cyborg chip in somebody, and I'm sure if you understand what transhumanism is, you'll understand why that is. Haru tramples 6 Delta plants, each symbolic of 1,000 lower Egyptian captives. Narmer Palat, First Dynasty. Harakan Polis, the centers of cities are important here as well. Read Psalm 90 through 91. El, the god El, elaborate, an anagram and a palindrome, I believe is called. The reverse words, Illuminati forwards and backwards, Ebo, Obi, Abba forwards and backwards, and so on. Osirian cults spread peacefully. The bull in charge, Serapis, right? The bull that charges, in charge. Amun-Ra, a moon-Ra, a hidden Ra, is the direction they seem to be taking. Martial arts, light hidden. Secret societies do the bidding of the elite, and the light temple is their enemy. Remember, think generation and succession. And I'm going to try to shoot through this with what time I have left. I increase this pace. Let me see. Okay, so page 44. Apep pierced by knives and bound with chains as the sun god reached the 12th province. So there's a lot of 7s and 12s in not only in the Bible but in Egyptian mythology. Ra, the golden calf, was a version of Ra worshipped. In the Bible, it does not say don't worship Ra. It talks about Baal, but doesn't name Ra. It was the version that they presented, just like the false narratives of the Bible that were detestable. And the Jews basically elaborated on Ra, and that's why you won't find them as such in Egyptian hieroglyphics and records. Ra's different forms worshipped, and there was anger. Okay, the golden calf again is their lion form. Their the bull, fat idiots instead of precise striking. The leopard, the hare, Ra, Horiketi, the different forms and the succession and generations, the different generations, and the pharaoh and the royal families like mine being more important than the Vikings and the murderous scum that have usurped the righteous within their own nations, wherever they may be from, that have sought to replace mine out of jealousy, and it's quite despicable. So the sun disk between the ram horns, the bull, Kemphis, Autumn, the setting sun. It seems I am just about out of time. So basically, these people are immoral. What they're doing is wrong. It is the end of martial arts as we know it. There's a lot of wordplay in popular culture. The Street Fighter 2, the fierce punch is more powerful than the strong punch, if I remember correctly, because it is the energy, the fierce lion. The cat was revered by Bastet and Sekhmet and different cats forms, the lions, the cats, the leopards. The panthers because of their agility. So outmaneuvering the big, strong, skinhead on his drugs who's a brain-dead, slow-thinking idiot. As a brain-searching son, it's a walk in the park. I apply transferable skills in the knife of Ra. I'll easily slit out their throat. Chunks of their, critical parts of their flesh and arteries, just completely destroy their femoral, their carotid, cut out their livers and intestines, the different canopic jars of Horus, and the martial arts significance of them as different vital organs were stored there, and I can go on and on. You have lost, I have won. Even if you do show up on the 20th, you have disgraced yourselves and your ancestors, and I demand in the name of God you give me my rightful place, and you accept your punishment in the spiritual world like men, and not the gender-neutral sissies that you present yourself as, and almost certainly are. Thank you.